are now open. The polls are now open.
I think people just like voting on election day. Some people like to get it out of the way, but others just prefer to wait.
Being an American, it's really important for us to get the vote out, and it's part of our civic duty.
And at this point, voters are kind of making a dash to the polls right now, or at least to the drop boxes to get their ballots in. This is a live look at Sacramento County, where voters are again turning in their ballots. The biggest day of the primary season, from California to Maine, Virginia to Colorado, Minnesota to Texas. 16 states are voting today, and hundreds of delegates are at stake. There's a lot on the line.
And tonight could set the stage for the presidential frontrunners and the general election come November. We have live team coverage tonight on this Super Tuesday for you on a national scale. Results are pouring in for several states right now. And on the more local level, the polls are still open at this hour. We are live at election offices where last-minute voters are making sure that their voice is heard.
And we're bringing you a live report from Alta, where we're talking with elections workers about how things are going under their new system and what happens once the polls close.
And I'm Marco Manna live in Stockton, where voters are still voting right now. We're going to talk to some of them about what brought them out to the polls, as well as the registrar of voters about turnout across San Joaquin County.
So again, California, one of 16 states holding elections today.
Yeah, results are already pouring in. Christopher Salas begins our team coverage right now. He's tracking the presidential race right now. Chris?
Edie Golston, so we just got results, or the polls closed, I should say, in Colorado, Minnesota, and Texas about 30 minutes ago. And we can say that the projection on both sides, for the Democrats, it's President Joe Biden projected to pick up all those states. On the Republican side, former President Donald Trump is projected to pick up all of those states. And that really gives you an idea of what it's been like so far on this Super Tuesday. So let's talk about what's been called. Former President Donald Trump is projected to win Alabama, Arkansas, Colorado, Maine, Massachusetts, Minnesota, North Carolina, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Texas, and Virginia. For President Biden, he's projected to win Alabama, Arkansas, Iowa, Massachusetts, Maine, North Carolina, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Texas, Vermont, and Virginia. As for the races that haven't been called on the Republican side, there's one that's outstanding right now, and it's been for a couple of hours. That's Vermont, where former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley is looking to play spoiler there. Now, with that said, the most important results coming out of this Super Tuesday may be when we start to dive into some of that exit data. For former President Donald Trump, we're watching to see if he can grow from his base, those white, non-college educated, self-described conservatives, and can he start picking up more of that moderate GOP vote that has been going for Haley. As for Biden and Democrats, they're watching those uncommitted vote totals. Democratic primary voters have used that option to try and send a message to the president. So some of these results in swing states like Minnesota, Virginia, and North Carolina, they could potentially reveal which party may have the advantage heading into the upcoming general election. So that's going to be closely watched. And it's important to note that with both Biden and Trump now adding substantially to their growing delegate counts throughout the evening, we are setting up what's looking like a 2020 presidential rematch here in November. And we we've also been following some of these down ballot races, not just the presidential races. Most notably, there in California, where there's a Senate primary race right now to fill the seat of the late Senator Dianne Feinstein. Back to you.
Yeah, we've been watching that one very closely, and we have reporters tonight covering all of those campaign parties. You know, one of the things that's really interesting is that we are seeing both Biden and Trump dominating in their respective parties, and at the same time, polls showing that that matchup is not what most Americans want.
Edie, that's right. So for months now, we have seen a number of polls show that voters don't want a 2020 presidential rematch. In fact, we just got an Associated Press poll that shows a majority of voters think both former President Donald Trump and President Joe Biden are not mentally fit to be president for the next 4 years. Back to you.
All right, Christopher, thanks for that part of our coverage tonight. We really do appreciate it. And from the national stage to our local races, turning our focus now to San Joaquin County, where the turnout is good too.
All right, KCRA3's Orca Manna joins us live from Stockton. We know they have a mayoral race and a lot of other races to be decided there. Orca, how's it going?
Yeah, Edie, well, we're kind of in a lull period right now. There's not a whole lot of people at the voting center. You can see a couple of folks kind of getting their ballots as they come here. We are at the San Joaquin County Registrar of Voters office, and we've kind of seen it ebb and flow throughout the day. Some people coming kind of around 5:30. That's when we saw a good group of people, but they're getting their ballot from the counter, and then they can either sit down and vote, or they can come over here to some of these rooms that they have some of these booths set up where voters can kind of vote and be shielded a little bit. Once they're done, they're going to come to these centers here, these machines, put their ballots in, and their votes will actually be processed, and that means that they know that their vote is counted. And we spoke to a lot of voters earlier as they were coming and filling out their ballots. A lot of people saying they were here for the Stockton races, including that mayoral race that Edie was talking about. 6 candidates, and other voters also saying that they were focused more on the presidential and Senate races. Here's some of the voters that we talked to earlier.
In our local city, I think it's just more important that we start to look here. I mean, this is where I'm at every day, and so it's important for me that whoever's in office is looking out for my best interest. So that's kind of like why I'm here today.
Immigration, absolutely immigration. I have family that live in New Mexico. I have family that lives in Arizona, Texas, and there are issues on their farms on the border.
Yeah, voters coming for a variety of different reasons. But as I mentioned, the turnout has kind of ebbed and flowed. Right now, the room here at the voting center, this one, the San Joaquin County Registrar of Voters, is not very busy right now. But we did speak with the Registrar of Voters a little bit earlier about turnout, specifically talking about mail-in ballots.
As of Saturday, we had about 55,000 vote-by-mail ballots in-house. We received more than 15 trays yesterday and about 8 trays today, and so we'll have a better understanding of how many more we've received. But so far, we were about at 14% with the vote-by-mail received prior to Saturday before the election.
And again, they still haven't counted and included the votes that they were getting from mail votes the past couple of days. But that 14% or so, that's lower than 2020 and the 2022 election. Still, voting officials are encouraging everyone to come out to the polls to vote. They are open until 8 p.m. All 153 voting centers across the county. So if you haven't voted yet and you are registered, you can also register to vote in person. There are also drop-off areas. There's a bin outside of the registrar's office where folks can drop off their mail ballots as well. So you have until 8 o'clock tonight to do so, and you can vote if you are in line at 8 p.m. Reporting live in Stockton tonight, Orko Manna, KCRA 3 News.
Yeah, just under an hour and a half from now. Thanks for that, Orko. Well, some changes for Placer County voters this primary. It became a Voters' Choice Act county this year.
The bottom line is that means voters are not assigned to a particular polling place. They can vote anywhere. KCRA 3's Leanne Danier joins us live from Alta. So how are things going?
Things are going really good, and part of that change, we're told, part of the benefits of that, it was able to be done with fewer people able to man those polling places. They used to have about 200, but they've scaled that down to 29. And this is a look inside one of them, the one in Alta. You'll notice we're bundled up because even though it's not snowing now, there's plenty outside. Take a look. We have some video from earlier today outside where you can see there is snow on the ground. It's been quite the weekend. And top of the work week for folks in Placer County, but lots of people told us that they were going to cast their ballots no matter what the weather did today. Still very excited that it was clear, even if a little bit chilly outside. Everyone that we've talked to said they didn't have any issues. The team here says things are going really smoothly. Just a few minutes ago, they passed the 100 ballot mark, and they were really pleased to see so many people coming by and stopping by to see them today. But even once the polls do close, the team here, they have quite a bit more work to do.
We have to tear everything down, or for the most part, make sure everything is secure, everything's locked in, make sure everything's counted and accounted for, and then the Sheriff's Department will actually come up and grab our vote-by-mail ballots and bring it down the hill for everything to be counted. We make sure the ballots in the scanner match the number on the number that the scanner portrays.
So it is going to be a busy night for the team that's here. Interestingly enough, most of the voters that we talked to told us that even though under these new rules they're able to go to any voting center, most of them tell us they've been voting here for years. In Alta, Leanne Denier, KCRA 3 News.
Leanne, thank you. So you heard the guy talking about the count that's going to start pretty soon. The first election results will start coming in just after 8 o'clock tonight as the polls close.
And you can track the results online, see how your county voted for President, Senate, and Prop 1. All that and more, it's on the KCRA 3 News app.